You are listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.
Steve G. Jones, welcome back to Money for Lunch.
Well, thanks, Bert. Great to be here as always.
Hey, I got to ask you this. Here you are. You're on the board of directors of the Los Angeles chapter of the American Lung Association. What's the interest there? What got you involved with the American Lung Association?
Well, it's interesting. I was in a networking group when I lived in Los Angeles. When I was I had my office in Beverly Hills, and they needed someone. A friend of mine who was in the networking group with me said they needed to kind of round out the board of directors, and they were looking into alternative health type people. So I showed up. I met with the president of the LA chapter. He liked me. He put me on the board. So that's what happened. And my interest is, my father died from complications related to smoking. He was a smoker all his life. So about 12 years ago, he passed away because of that. So I've become very adamant about helping people stop smoking with the power of hypnosis and just educating them in general. The Lung Association, any groups like that are very interested in helping people understand how things like air quality and things that you do to yourself, like smoking and things that are toxic in your home, how those things can really impact your health when it comes to breathing them in.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting. It's an interesting story how things happen because you're involved with a networking group, and somebody opens the door to you. And it's, as you said, it's also good because you're able to kind of give back and in memorial of your father there. My dad is he's 93 and he's been a smoker all his life. He's had some issues with smoking, and he cut way back. He was a 2-pack smoker a day, and he's now down to a couple cigarettes a day and a couple cigars. And what's interesting to me, this is what I learned from at one point, both of my parents were smokers. And so this is when I realized that how you feel is more important than what you know, because my dad is an academic. He can tell you what's in a cigarette. He can tell you how bad it is. He can tell you it's a gross habit. He can tell you all the stuff, but he still likes to smoke.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're from the same era. I guess your dad was born about 1923. My dad was born in 1925. So based on the age that you said, my dad would be about 91 if he is still alive right now. He would be exactly 91. And that era, they used to smoke everywhere. They used to smoke in airplanes. They'd have an ashtray in an airplane on a commercial airliner. So it was just part of the culture, kind of like sunbathing. Sunbathing when I was growing up was the thing to do. Now we know that you need to cover up and avoid that as much as possible. So we've grown a lot in our knowledge over the years, but certain people who were born at certain times, that's what they think. I don't know if they think of it like a vitamin or they think it won't hurt them. I mean, thank goodness your dad's still alive, so he's doing some stuff right. But overall, it takes a heck of a toll on the body, on all systems of the body, and it's much better not to do it.
Absolutely. And one of the things that when you look at that era, when your dad and I were young, and a lot of people aren't going to believe this, but you can actually go on YouTube and see the commercials. And at one point, the cigarette companies literally got doctors to go on the air and say, hey, smoking is good for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
It's unbelievable. They have doctors, accredited doctors saying, hey, smoke, every now and then it's not a bad thing. I like to smoke 2 or 3 times a day. And so that's why I think it became so popular, because you had that seal of approval from doctors. And then, of course, it went rampant through Hollywood. All the tough guys smoked. What's that guy? Dean? What was his name?
Oh, James Dean. James Dean. Yeah.
Well, Jimmy to his friend. And so
there you go. Yeah.
All the manly men in the world smoked, and a lot of people may or may not know this, but Tom Selleck, who's considered pretty much the image of a manly man, his first job, Marlboro Man.
Wow. Well, luckily he survived. I know there's at least one Marlboro man who didn't make it. Kind of like the Wendy's guy, the guy who started Wendy's, died. I mean, it's not a laughing matter, but he died of a heart attack in his 50s, if I'm remembering my facts right. So you eat a bunch of crap, or you breathe in things that you shouldn't. It's going to take a toll, and it's remarkable how far our knowledge has actually come in this, and thank goodness it has. I'm shocked that the medical industry was on board with that, but I guess with lack of knowledge and lack of data, there's ignorance, and now we know better.
Sure, and I think maybe that was part of it, but I think it was also the fact that they didn't regulate TV commercials back then.
Yeah, and
so
money talks. Sad to say.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, money talks. It's sad to say, but that's I don't want to. I've had my run-ins with that kind of thinking, and I could go into detail about stuff, but I'll spare everyone the sad details about how the big money machine will do its thing. But it's just a fact. If they have the money, they can pretty much do what they want. And thank goodness we're just overall more enlightened now, because eventually a preponderance of evidence just says, hey, that's insane. That smoking thing just isn't good for you. So eventually logic and data win.
Sure. And what I find kind of interesting too is, the extremes that the tobacco companies went to try to negate their knowledge. Oh, we didn't know, or they were pretty obnoxious about denying the ill effects of tobacco, but not that you and I were going to talk about the ill effects of tobacco, but what I do want to talk about is the whole deal that how we feel is so important to our success. Because we started talking about your father and I, my father and your father, and that was an era gone by.
Yep.
But there are people who are smoking today. Millions of people who started smoking within the last few years, who know, hey, cigarette is bad for you. And if you've ever smoked a cigarette, it hurts.
Right.
You got to choke this down. And so, and my research, the research that I've been able to do, and I've interviewed over 1,000 smokers, it comes down to, in the most general sense, feeling loved. Some people call it being accepted. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be part of wanted to be like everybody else. I wanted, all my friends were smokers, so I decided to try it. But to me, I could categorize that as, either wanting to be loved or feeling loved, or however you want to, phrase that. But ultimately, some variation of love was the reason they started smoking. And then I did find a small group in my research of military people who started smoking. And this is, to me, just as dumb of a reason, but they started smoking because when they were in the military, the smokers got like a 15-20-minute smoke break. And the non-smokers were not allowed a break.
Wow. Yeah, and going back to what you said earlier about being cool, people start in high school because they can hang out with the cool crowd. So there are these quote-unquote benefits of smoking that people are attracted to, but it's really just a trap.
It is. It's amazing. And so, going back to this is how we feel is so important. I mean, in the moment, how we feel is going to determine our decision. It's going to determine our level of success. For example, if you are tired, you're not going to do as well. What's the old adage? Fatigue makes cowards of us all. we call it another example. This is a personal on me. I remember when I was a young father, I would come home and I was just completely stressed out of my mind. And I would come home and my young children would be running to me saying, "Daddy's home, Daddy's home." And all I could do is bark at them because I was stressed out, and because I was young and dumb and inexperienced when it came to my kids, I would bark at them to leave me alone. Let me just get in the house and kind of, chill out for a little bit before you jump all over me, kind of a thing. And so between interviewing smokers and watching my own personal experiences, I realized that how we feel is more important than anything else. It overrides knowledge. It overrides anything else. And so, you and I talked about how fear will hold us back, and all these other emotions will hold us back. So this is my long way to get to this question is, how do we keep ourselves in a peak state so we don't bark at our kids, so we aren't going to go into smoking or drinking or bad habits? How do we keep ourselves in this mindset so where we can be better?
Wow, that's a big question. In my former life, I was a young father with a couple kids, and in my early 20s, and I was in the same boat. Stressed out at the office and so forth, and coming home and not being quite as interactive as I, looking back, wish I had been. And I'm putting myself back in that situation. It's nice to apply the knowledge we have, but to the past. And it's easy to do that, to look back and say, hey, we should have done this. But looking back at myself in my 20s, I really think it comes down to just being open to this, first of all. I don't know if I would have even been open to that. I think the young me would have thought, no, you have to push harder and do more and achieve more and that kind of thing. That's just the mode I was in. And I've mellowed out a little bit since then, now that I'm almost 50. But I think it's a matter of really being open to things like meditation and hypnosis and vacations. I remember I took one vacation in 6 years. I remember a stretch where I worked for 6 years straight. One vacation, I went to Jacksonville Beach for 2 days, and that was it. Took the family there. But it's really a matter of just understanding the balance of life and understanding that studies do show that if you push versus push a little bit, take a break, push a little bit, take a break, the constant pushing is less effective, produces fewer results of the kind you're looking for than if you balance things out with, working, playing, because in that playing, you recharge, you get new ideas, you're refreshed, and you're much more likely to perform longer and better.
You are listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up. We have this societal pressure, if you will, to, especially if you're young, right, and you're trying to climb the corporate ladder, push, and be aggressive, pound the chest kind of a thing. And I like what you said about your example there that, hey, I didn't take a break for 6 years. And, most likely, it's not like your kids were saying, man, I hope Dad doesn't take another vacation this year.
Yeah, they want more. They appreciate it. And, vacations when you have young kids are really valuable because they get to see more diverse things. They're not necessarily going to care about what you do or want to do what you do, but they do need exposure to the world at large so they can get their own ideas and see what they do gravitate to. And in an isolated, closed system, they don't have that. So that's one of the things that I think I know that I would have done much differently. I would have balanced that out, that work play, because it just would have benefited everyone much more.
Absolutely. No, I could not agree with you more on that. The thing that's interesting is looking back. Since we're looking back, I remember kind of what you said about being open to change, and I became aware that I was not, being as patient as I could. So I remember this awareness. And I can't remember necessarily where it came from. I don't know if it was a spiritual awakening or something. I realized that I just needed to be more patient. And I remember, praying, in the car or out loud or whatever, and thinking about this, that I wanted to have more patience. I wanted, to be able to come home and not bark at people or my kids or my spouse, and just overall just be a more patient individual. Well, again, this is back in the day when I was, I was really sucked into the whole corporate thing, and I was doing mergers and acquisitions, and you can't be an M&A and not look the part, which, you have to have custom shirts and custom suits and all this other stuff. And I remember picking up my son one day, right as I was heading out the door, and my son had what's called an LBM all over my custom shirt. Luckily, I didn't have my suit jacket on. And for those who are not familiar with the term, LBM stands for leaky bowel movement. So he had poured, his excrement had leaked out his diaper onto my shirt, and I had it. Luckily, I was in the right frame of mind where I chuckled at it, because immediately when this happened, I remember thinking that I needed to be more patient. And what is, and as life will often create the opportunity for what you need, right? So what could be a better opportunity to be more patient than to have somebody poop on you and then, being able to laugh it off, go back, change your clothes, and start over again. And so my point being is that is when I became aware of, at least one of my frailties, which is this impatientness that I had. And back to how we feel is more important than what we know. Everybody has experienced at one point or another where their confidence made things happen for them. If you're a confident person, you don't mind taking chances. You don't mind speaking up. You'll raise your hand in class. You'll ask the girl out because you're confident. And so, I think confidence is one of those things that a lot of us are sorely lacking, or we might have confidence, let's say, in one arena, the office, but we have no confidence in a social setting, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Confidence is very powerful and very helpful. And I love the story. I didn't know the term LBM. Luckily, I never experienced one of those as a young father. That should be in a sitcom or something, or a movie scene. That's great. The only thing I had that can compete with that is and this is on YouTube, an interview I did for a TV station. My assistant was driving. I was running late, and I had some coffee, and I spilled it all over my pants. And when I'm sitting in the interview, and they're talking about a book that I wrote on hypnotherapy, and I'm sitting in such a way as to cover the large coffee stain on my pants. And that happens. And that showed me that I should prepare early. It was about 10 years ago, I guess. I was in my 30s. And just showed me I should prepare a little bit better and not run late. So I've learned my lesson there. But confidence is key in everything. And, that's what helps you pull through. When you get the LBM on your shirt or the coffee on your pants, you just keep moving forward, and you look for ways that you can learn from that.
So let me ask you this, because again, this is kind of your area of expertise. Is how do we? When I say your area of expertise, the mind and the mind is so powerful. How can we go about developing our confidence? Because again, I like your whole coffee on the pants thing. A lot of people would have been so freaked out they would have canceled the interview.
Yeah.
And you just went with it. You had enough confidence to say, hey, you know what, I'll just roll with it. And, when you show up like that, people, things happen to let, to put you in the best position possible. So any suggestions, any ideas for how to build your confidence?
Well, I think that it's really a matter of taking the time to find something that works for you, whether it's, long-term talk therapy, hypnotherapy, meditation, just getting out there. For some people, that initial step is the hardest, and then after they're out there and more interactive, then it just accelerates. I remember a friend of mine I had, his name was Steve also, was in 9th grade. Before my parents sent me to military school, I was in public high school. And my friend Steve, who I became friends with, he was a bit of an introvert, and his parents actually thanked my parents for me bringing him out of his shell, as they said it. So we became good friends. He started becoming more socially interactive, and sometimes it's that kind of thing. Just taking those first steps, becoming more social. It can be a bit of a challenge, but you really have to, unless you have a good friend who meets you and inspires you, you really have to do that yourself. You have to get out there and kind of fake it till you make it type thing. Just put yourself in those situations, feel the nervousness, feel the lack of confidence, but realize that the more you do it, the easier it gets, the more people start to talk to you, the bigger your social circle grows, and it just kind of snowballs from there. So whether it's hypnotherapy or mainstream therapy or meditation or self-help books, you just need something to spark that thing and to keep going even when you don't feel it, and then it just becomes easier and easier.
Absolutely. I like that. I like what you brought up there as far as fake it till you make it. One of the things I've learned from NLP, I know this is one of the areas that you what do you call it, that you're an expert in, is that the way we move shows up emotionally for us, right? So how motion equals emotion. So you start walking around as you're confident, you stick your chest out and your shoulders are back, all of a sudden you feel more confident.
Yeah.
And a matter of fact, you know what? Here's my last question, because we're going to run out of time. I want you to explain to the audience about anchors and how anchors work for us, because anchors, can make or break a situation for us.
Yeah, well, anchors, the way that they're most productive and most practical is that you just think of a time that you did have your shoulders back, that you did feel good about yourself, just organically. Something happened. You walked a little old lady across the street, or you graduated kindergarten, or you graduated college, or you got married, or something that made you feel good. You put yourself back in that situation. You make the sight, sound, smells, taste, every sensory detail you can think of. You crank it up to a level 10 out of 10. And then you just do something basic, such as make the OK sign with your right hand, touching the tip of your right index finger to the tip of your right thumb, and say the word confidence when you're feeling that confidence that you felt back then. And then the next time you need to feel confident, you just make the OK sign with your right hand and say the word confidence, and you create a bridge to that time when you felt good, when you walked with your shoulders back, when you felt great about yourself, so that you have the confidence from the past anytime that you need it.
A great explanation, and this thing about anchoring, we already are doing it. Certain smells will repulse us, or as you said, will send us back in time. There's certain smells that we all enjoy around Christmas. Why? Because it reminds us of our childhood, and so it changes how we feel. If I hear Boston play, the musical group Boston, it always reminds me of high school, and I automatically get good feelings. The same thing with the music, good vibration. So we're surrounded by these triggers or these anchors that set us off and make us feel good or make us feel bad, and sometimes we don't know why. And what I hope everybody picked up on this, what Steve, Dr. Jones, just gave you the formula is so you can make yourself feel good whenever you want. So you can go around saying okay, or you can go around saying confident, and all of a sudden your body changes and your shoulders go back, and you get all this, and you get we call it a surplus of confidence because you've trained yourself psychologically and physically. You train yourself both physically and mentally.
Physiologically, there you go.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good thing for the thesaurus. Anyway, so bottom line is you can do that. And I also want to talk about this because Steve has has the world's largest audio library, clinical hypnotherapy library at stevegjones.com. And he's got, I don't know, a dozen, maybe half a dozen or so, audios on just confidence. Not just confidence, but there's confidence in dating. Program yourself for confidence, unlimited confidence. And so right there, I use Dr. Steve G. Jones's audios. My wife uses them. I even got some for my kids that help them with their grades. And so this is stuff work. I absolutely believe in it, or I wouldn't be telling you about it. And so you can go there, cgjones.com. There's 3 or 4 things that I see that deal with confidence, and there's probably more. Once you get in there, you know, there's just so many things that Steve has. And the great thing about it is, because I know this answer because Steve, I've asked you this question. He doesn't just sit there and try to come up with things. He also gets feedback from people like me and his other, tens of thousands of customers that tell him, hey, we want an audio on this, and he'll produce it if he gets enough requests. So stevegjones.com is the place to go to help you build your confidence, as well as some other audios there that might be of benefit to you. Steve G. Jones, I want to say thank you to you, my friend, for stopping by and helping us out today. Looking forward to hanging out with you here in 2016.
Oh, Bert, I'll look forward to it also. Thank you very much.
You bet. Good stuff there from Steve G. Jones. And today we're talking about how you feel is more important than what you know, specifically confidence. What would your life be more like? What would your life be more, or how would your life be improved if you had confidence? You can have more confidence, and you can achieve your goals quicker, faster. You can have more fun in life, and you can do it. You can train yourself to be more confident. You can listen to Steve G. Jones on his audio series there at stevegjones.com.
You are listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.